He felt a hand grab his coat, hard, not a brush, not the wind, a grip, strong enough to stop him mid-step. He didn't turn around, he couldn't, because whatever was holding him was standing in a graveyard at 2 a.m. This is a true story that has been told in whispers for decades, a story about fear, pride, and the moment when the human mind turns against itself. Some say it proves ghosts exist. Others say it proves something far worse. They had been sitting in the bar for hours, long after the laughter from earlier in the night had started to fade. The air was thick with smoke and spilled alcohol, the kind of place where time stopped feeling real. Conversations overlapped, glasses clinked, and stories slowly drifted toward darker territory, as they always did when the night stretched on too long. Someone mentioned the cemetery outside town, the one near the old road where the trees grew too close together. Another man joked about how it was the creepiest place around after sunset. That was when one of them said he would never go near it in the middle of the night, not for any amount of money. The comment drew laughter at first, but then another man leaned forward and said there was nothing to be afraid of. He insisted cemeteries were only frightening because people wanted them to be. According to him, the dead didn't care who walked among them, and the darkness was just darkness. The argument escalated quickly. Each drink made the words sharper, the confidence louder. Stories began to surface, each one more unsettling than the last. Someone spoke about footsteps heard behind him while passing the gates at night. Another mentioned seeing a shadow move where nothing should have been. Every story added weight to the room, pressing down on the table between them. Finally, someone suggested a bet. It started small, but pride took over almost immediately. The man who claimed there was nothing to fear said he would prove it. He would go to the cemetery right then, alone, in the middle of the night. All he had to do was walk to the center and hammer a nail into one of the wooden grave crosses. In the morning he would bring proof. The challenge was accepted before anyone could think better of it. A hammer was found. A long nail followed. The man grabbed both, laughing as he stood up, though the sound felt forced. He told them he would be back before they finished their next round. None of them offered to go with him. The drive out of town felt longer than it should have. The road narrowed, the streetlights disappearing one by one until only his headlights cut through the darkness. When the iron cemetery gate came into view, he slowed to a stop and sat there with the engine running. For a moment, the bravado drained away, replaced by a quiet tension he hadn't expected. Eventually, he stepped out of the car. The gate creaked loudly as he pushed it open, the sound echoing far more than it should have. Inside, the air felt colder, heavier. Every step across the gravel seemed amplified. He could hear his own breathing, shallow and fast, and nothing else. Rows of graves stretched ahead, crooked and uneven. Some markers were stone, others nothing more than weathered wood. Shadows pooled between them, deep and unmoving. He forced himself forward, telling himself it was just nerves. The center of the cemetery felt exposed, open in a way that made him uncomfortable. He found a small wooden cross leaning slightly to one side. Its surface was rough, splintered from years of weather. His hands shook as he placed the nail against the wood. The first strike was light. He stopped immediately, listening. Nothing moved. No sound followed. The second strike was harder. His heart raced as the nail bit into the cross. By the third strike, the sound echoed across the graves. He glanced over his shoulder, convinced he would see something standing there. There was nothing. He drove the nail in fully and stepped back. Relief washed over him, sudden and overwhelming. He laughed quietly, shaking his head at himself, and turned to leave. That was when something yanked his coat. Not brushed, not caught, pulled. The force was sharp and sudden, jerking him backward mid-step, his entire body locked in place. His breath caught in his throat as pure fear surged through him. He couldn't bring himself to turn around. His mind filled the darkness behind him with something vast and terrible. The pull came again, stronger this time. He ran. His feet slipped on the gravel as he stumbled forward, panic taking over. Whatever was holding him didn't let go. It dragged at his back, yanking hard enough to nearly pull him off balance. Behind him, there was noise. A violent crashing sound, like wood tearing free from the earth, like something being ripped loose and dragged across the ground. He screamed as he ran, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might burst. He fell once, scraping his hands raw, then scrambled back to his feet. The noise followed him, relentless, growing louder with every step. Desperate, he clawed at his coat. The fabric tore free suddenly, and the pressure vanished. He didn't slow down. He didn't look back. He burst through the cemetery gate and slammed into his car, fumbling the keys with shaking hands. The engine roared to life, and he sped away down the dark road, his mind fractured with terror. When he reached the bar, the noise inside died instantly. Everyone stared at him in shock. His face was pale, his eyes wide and unfocused. His hair, once dark, was streaked with white, as if years had passed in minutes. He told them what happened, his voice breaking as he described the grip, the sound, the terror that chased him through the graves. No one laughed, no one doubted him. At dawn, they returned together. In daylight, the cemetery looked ordinary, almost peaceful. Birds sang from the trees. The shadows had retreated. They walked to the center and found the wooden cross torn from the ground. Pinned to it was the man's coat, nailed clean through the fabric. Only then did they understand what had happened. The explanation spread quickly among them, quiet and uncomfortable. He hadn't been grabbed. There had been no presence behind him. In his panic, he had nailed his own coat to the wooden cross. When he turned to run, the fabric held him in place. The resistance he felt, the violent pulling, the sound chasing him through the cemetery, all of it had come from the cross being torn from the ground as he dragged it behind him. It made sense, too much sense. The mind, under extreme fear, fills in the blanks. It invents threats where there are none. The doctors later called it acute stress response, a rare but documented condition. They said the sudden shock had triggered a physical reaction so severe that his hair lost its color almost instantly. A survival mechanism gone wrong, a body overwhelmed by terror. That explanation satisfied most people, but not him. He never argued against it, never claimed there was anything supernatural that night. He accepted what they told him, nodded along, and avoided the subject whenever it came up. Still, there were details he never spoke about. The nail, for one. When they removed it from the cross, it was bent, not snapped, but warped, as if something had resisted it from the other side of the wood. No one could explain how that happened with a single hammer strike, and the cross itself had been pulled far beyond where he collapsed, farther than anyone believed he could have dragged it while running blindly through uneven ground. After that night, his life changed quietly. He stopped going out late, stopped wearing long coats. He took longer routes to avoid passing near the cemetery, even during the day. Sometimes, while sitting alone, he would reach back and brush his shoulder, as if checking for something that wasn't there. On rare occasions, when sleep finally took him, he would wake suddenly, gasping for air. He said he was dreaming of running, of gravel under his feet, of something pulling him back. Not always hard, sometimes just enough to be felt. Years later, someone asked him if he believed in ghosts. He didn't answer right away. Then he said something quietly, almost to himself. "I don't know what grabbed me that night," he said. "But I know one thing." "What?" "I never felt alone." And after that, he refused to say anything more. If this story stayed with you, you know what to do.